Has this ever happened to you? When a woman gets tired, not just in her body, but in her soul. When she realizes she's done chasing someone to love her, done bending herself into shapes to be chosen, done doing those quiet, invisible things just to prove her worth. Something ancient begins to wake inside her. The energy that once reached outward, desperate to be seen, to be held, to be wanted, begins to turn inward, back toward its true source. And in that turning, everything changes. For years, she might have lived under the belief that love has to be earned, that her value comes from how others see her. She may have mistaken attention for affection and affection for validation. She may have looked for strength in people who seem confident or mysterious, not realizing they were only mirrors of what she hadn't yet owned within herself. But the mirrors always cracked. The dream always faded. Because anything built on projection can't last. It has to return home. When a woman stops chasing love, she doesn't stop loving. Love is still her nature, her breath, her essence. What ends is the illusion that she needs someone else to complete her. The same energy that once chased now builds. It becomes creativity, focus, and clarity. She begins to see how the world once fed on her need, how culture, stories, and even gentle romantic ideals taught her she had to be chosen to be whole. But the unlived parts of her never died. They waited beneath the surface in the quiet shadow of her being. And when she finally stops running, she meets that shadow face to face. It isn't soft. It isn't easy. It's full of anger, grief, forgotten power. She meets the part of herself that was silenced, the one who raged when ignored, the one who feared disappearing without someone's gaze. And she learns that what she thought was love was often control dressed as care, or fear disguised as devotion. But as she sees it all, something remarkable happens. The shadow stops frightening her. It starts guiding her. It becomes a compass pointing her back to truth. She realizes that peace isn't found in what happens to her, but in how she responds. What once felt like heartbreak becomes initiation. The wound is no longer her enemy. It becomes her teacher. The same ache that once made her chase now makes her protect her peace. It drives her to set boundaries, to seek solitude, to build an inner world that doesn't collapse when someone walks away. There's something magnetic about a woman who no longer needs validation. She doesn't reject love. She just no longer kneels before it. Her worth is no longer in question, and because of that, she becomes even more captivating. But now, desire doesn't control her. She can stand before admiration and not lose herself. She can face rejection and stay whole because she has touched the part of herself that can't be taken. Her actions become deliberate, her thoughts sharper, her direction clear. The softness in her doesn't fade, it deepens. It becomes calm, wise, steady. She learns that real love isn't about pursuit but presence. Not performance, but participation. The dance between the feminine and the strong within her becomes balanced, sacred, creative. What was once restlessness becomes stillness. What was once fear becomes freedom. This woman starts to live not for romance, but for meaning. She no longer asks, will someone choose me? Instead, she asks, what am I choosing to create with my life? Her gaze turns inward, and there she finds what she had been searching for all along. But this transformation doesn't come without loss. The old patterns resist. The ego, once addicted to drama and control, trembles as it fades. It whispers, you're too cold now. You'll be alone forever. You're losing your softness. Yet underneath that fear, something deeper smiles. Because she hasn't become cold, she's become clear. And clarity isn't the absence of feeling. It's mastery of it. When a woman stops chasing love, she starts to carry a quiet power that few can name. People feel it when she enters a room, not loud, not performative, but undeniable. She moves as if she belongs everywhere and nowhere at once. She no longer competes, or compares, or begs to be understood. She knows now that peace isn't in being loved by others, but in loving herself enough to stop needing to be needed. And that's when she becomes unstoppable. There's a subtle shift that happens when a woman stops orbiting around romantic approval. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't happen overnight. It unfolds quietly, like dawn after a long night. At first, she might not even notice it. She just feels tired, not physically, but soul, weary. The endless cycles of trying, waiting, hoping begin to feel empty. The patterns that once gave her identity now feel like chains. And so, almost without realizing it, she stops. She stops chasing. She stops bargaining with her worth. She lets silence replace strategy, and in that silence, she finally meets herself. She no longer feeds the false gods of external approval. She turns toward the sacred place within. And there, she realizes something powerful. She's been projecting her own light onto others. Every man she ever loved, every heart she chased, reflected her own unlived potential. She saw her strength in their confidence, her wisdom in their mystery, her tenderness in their affection. They were never her completion. They were her reflection. And when she stops chasing, even fate begins to change. The old scripts that told her she was incomplete or unworthy lose their grip. She stops acting them out and starts observing them. She begins to understand the story behind the story, the deeper architecture of her own longing. This is where the real journey begins, into the deep forest of her soul. There she finds not just beauty, but chaos. All the parts she hid while chasing love, the anger, the ambition, the intuition she once dismissed. They've been waiting in the dark, whispering, "Welcome home." It's no longer about love in the romantic sense. It's love as wholeness, love as awareness. She starts caring for her inner world the way she once cared for everyone else. She honors her rest, her intuition, her truth. She creates not to be seen, but because creating itself is sacred. She realizes what she was chasing in others wasn't affection. It was connection with her own soul. Freedom, she learns, isn't the absence of attachment, but the mastery of it. True courage isn't about rejecting love. It's about facing the emptiness that follows when you stop defining yourself through it. That emptiness is sacred. It's where the real self begins to rise. And yes, this change confuses people. Some will say she's changed. Some will call her distant or detached. But the truth is, she's stopped playing the role of the woman who sacrifices herself for harmony. She no longer carries the weight of everyone's emotions. She doesn't believe she has to shrink to be loved. And in doing so, she unsettles the patterns around her. People sense that her energy is no longer available for their projections, and it makes them uneasy. But she doesn't explain herself anymore. She doesn't rush to fix or soften their discomfort. She's free. She realizes that silence is not distance. It's dignity. In that quiet, she starts hearing a different kind of voice, one not born from fear or need. It's calm, steady, timeless. It tells her, you were never meant to be small. You were never meant to chase what already belongs to you. And what is truly yours can't be taken away. This is the voice of self-knowledge. It's the quiet confidence of a woman who finally understands that love, like light, can only shine outward when it first burns within. She begins to embody something powerful, not the girl who waits, not the lover who chases, but the woman who creates. She becomes the center of her world, not through control, but through balance. Her outer world starts to mirror her inner clarity. Relationships shift, work evolves. Her sense of purpose deepens. She reacts less and feels more. She no longer needs chaos to feel alive because she has found aliveness in stillness. The unstoppable part of her isn't about force. It's presence. That quiet certainty that comes from knowing who she is and who she is not. Eventually, the world starts responding differently to her. People sense something. A calm strength, a quiet power. It's not pride. It's not retreat. It's the kind of presence that makes noise fade away. She doesn't need to explain herself anymore because her energy speaks first. She's become whole, a person whose inner and outer worlds finally speak the same language. Now, when she walks into a room, she doesn't wonder who's looking at her. She observes. She listens. Her awareness sharpens in ways it never could before when she was too busy seeking approval. Her sensitivity, once a source of pain, becomes her greatest insight. She no longer confuses chemistry for connection or intensity for intimacy. The kind of men who once pulled her and now seem transparent. Not because they changed, but because her perception did. Her illusions fade, and with them comes a quiet kind of sadness. When false stories die, they leave silence behind. She begins to see the world as it truly is, not as she once hoped it to be. The soul often has to pass through darkness, not as punishment, but as purification. The ego grieves for what it thought it needed, while something deeper whispers, this is freedom. Freedom isn't loud or glamorous at first. It's raw. It's still. It's that strange space between who she was and who she's becoming. Sometimes it feels like nothing is changing, but beneath the surface, everything is. The pain that once broke her now shapes her. What once defined her now melts into understanding. She starts to notice the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is hunger for validation. Solitude is peace. In solitude, she finds her own company and discovers it's enough. She reads, she walks, she creates. She listens not just to her thoughts, but to what lives beneath them. She understands now that her worth is not something to earn or trade. It's a constant. The old philosophers spoke of this peace too. They said freedom begins when you stop trying to control what isn't yours to control. She sees now how much of her life was driven by longing for love, recognition, certainty. And the moment she lets go, the things she truly needs start flowing toward her. Not because she demands them, but because her energy is no longer tangled in fear. There's a beautiful paradox here. When a woman stops chasing love, love finds her in new forms. It comes through art, friendship, quiet moments of joy. She starts to see love not as something to own, but as something to express. Something she gives freely because it no longer drains her. Her heart opens again, but this time it's guarded by wisdom. She knows now that saying no can also be an act of love. The kind that protects the sacred space of her becoming. This transformation softens her, not into weakness, but into compassion. She no longer carries bitterness toward those who hurt her. She sees their pain for what it was, wounds acting themselves out. Every heartbreak, every rejection, every moment of chasing wasn't wasted. Each one changed her in ways she couldn't see at the time. And then her purpose begins to rise again, quietly, naturally, like water finding its path. It's no longer about proving anything. It's about expressing what's true. She doesn't want to impress anymore. She wants to contribute. That shift changes everything. Her work, her voice, her relationships, all start to align with who she really is. People often confuse this piece for detachment, but it's the opposite. It's full presence, being deeply connected without needing to control the outcome. She can love deeply now because she no longer fears loss. She can give freely because she no longer needs to be filled. Her strength isn't that she can't be hurt. She can. But pain no longer defines her. Her strength comes from one simple truth. She refuses to abandon herself, no matter what happens. She's learned the art of returning home to herself. And that's a kind of magic the world can't take away. There comes a point in every woman's awakening when she stops wanting to be understood. She just wants to be real. That's the quiet revolution that happens after she stops chasing. For so long, her energy went outward, trying to be seen, chosen, understood. But now, it turns inward. She no longer wants to fit into someone else's story. She writes her own, And this turning inward is not selfishness. It's self-respect. It's the process of integration where all her sides meet light and shadow, tenderness and strength, need and independence. When a woman stops chasing love, she stops dividing herself. She allows contradiction to exist without guilt. She learns she can be both soft and strong, nurturing and bold, loving and unattached. Her emotions stop reacting and start reflecting. She no longer asks, "Why did he leave?" but instead wonders, "What part of me was looking outside for something I hadn't yet built inside?" That's not self-blame. It's awareness. It's realizing that every love story was a mirror and every heartbreak a map. Slowly, her fear of being alone transforms into peace. The peace of belonging to herself. She understands now that solitude isn't the absence of connection. It's the presence of self. She begins to notice her own patterns. How she once wore masks to feel safe. How she hid to be loved. And when those masks fall away, the woman beneath them finally breathes. This is what it means to live a self-governed life. One where peace depends only on the state of her own mind. She finally understands she has power over her mind, not the world. And in that realization, she finds her strength. That realization is what now anchors her. She no longer clings to the tides of other people's emotions. She becomes the shore. But this growth doesn't erase her desire for love. It refines it. Love no longer comes from emptiness, but from fullness. She doesn't chase anymore because she doesn't need to. Her heart isn't a begging bowl. It's a vessel overflowing with its own light. From this place, love becomes devotion without dependency, giving without exhaustion, connection without losing herself. She's found a balance within. Her inner strength and her soft heart finally work together. That balance allows her to hold herself the way she once wished someone else would. She no longer needs anyone to make her feel safe because she has built that safety inside. She no longer longs to be completed because she's already whole. Her feminine side no longer fears her masculine side. They move together now in harmony, balanced, fluid, sacred. Her strength gives her direction. Her intuition gives her depth. Together, they create a peace that once felt impossible. From this harmony comes creation. Many women who reach this stage begin to create art, start businesses, or build communities. They pour into the world what they once poured into others. Their energy becomes creative, not performative. The love that once chased now builds, now heals, now transforms. The world may not always understand her transformation. Some will say she's changed, that she's distant, too calm, too strong. But these opinions no longer shake her. She knows that people often fear what they can't control, and you can't control what's free. Her freedom isn't rebellion, it's alignment. It's what happens when a woman remembers her own power. The force she has become is not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It shines quietly from the understanding that she is already whole, not above anyone, but beyond her own illusions. Her beauty now is in her presence, not her appearance. Her value is not in being chosen, but in choosing herself again and again. And in that choice, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to mirror her wholeness. Opportunities align. Relationships evolve. Coincidences multiply. What once required effort now happens naturally. Because energy that is whole attracts from wholeness, not from need. Love still comes to her, but now it's a meeting of equals, not a rescue mission. It's soul recognizing soul, not shadow seeking shelter. It's no longer the kind of love that consumes, but the kind that sets you free. There comes a sacred calm when a woman finally stops seeking what was never lost. The chase ends, and in its place rises a quiet glow. The kind that doesn't crave, doesn't demand, it simply is. This isn't resignation, it's realization. The long journey of searching for love outside herself has brought her home. And home, she realizes, was never a person, it was presence. Now she lives differently. Time slows down. The small things, sunlight spilling across the floor, the sound of her own laughter, the stillness before dawn, become enough. Her nervous system, once ruled by anxiety and waiting, begins to rest. She no longer waits for a message, a sign, or someone's attention. She no longer trades her peace for reassurance. The constant need for validation dissolves into quiet awareness. She can finally breathe. And in that breath, life itself changes its rhythm. She's made peace with every part of herself. The needy one, the jealous one, the hopeful one, the one who wanted to be seen. She no longer tries to silence them. She holds them. She's learned that love was never about fixing her imperfections, but about bringing them into light. From that wholeness, compassion flows easily. She can now look at the woman she once was, the one who begged, waited, and chased, and smile, not in judgment, but in gratitude. Because without her, this woman wouldn't exist. The pain, the patterns, the heartbreak, they weren't detours. They were her initiation into becoming who she truly is. This is victory. Not the loud kind, but the quiet triumph of self-mastery. True freedom. She understands now that she wasn't made to chase, to please, or to perform. She was made to be, to create, to expand, to love without losing herself. Love for her now isn't a goal. It's a frequency. It's how she moves through life. She no longer asks, who will love me? She asks, how can I love more fully, without fear, without control, without pretending? Her love has become pure, not pointed. It doesn't aim. It radiates. Her strength gives her purpose. Her softness gives her flow. Together, they form a complete self, no longer in conflict, but in conversation. The world can feel this, even if it can't explain it. Some will be drawn to her calm. Others may pull away, unsettled by her freedom. But she no longer defines her worth by who stays or who leaves. She knows that true freedom can unsettle those still trapped by their own fears. So she blesses them and continues walking. Her path now isn't about convincing anyone. It's about being. And with every step, her energy becomes unstoppable. Not because she fights, but because she flows. Like water, she no longer argues with form. She becomes it. Obstacles turn into openings, endings into beginnings. What once felt like rejection now feels like redirection. What once felt like loss now feels like liberation. She teaches now without teaching, simply by being. She becomes a mirror, a living reminder of what's possible when a woman returns to herself. People see her and begin to question their own chasing, their own compromises. She doesn't preach, she embodies. An embodiment is the highest form of wisdom. There's nothing left to prove. She knows now that everything she once searched for, love, belonging, peace, joy, validation, was never meant to come from others. It was always meant to come through her. That's the secret every wise soul has pointed to all along. The divine isn't outside of us. It's expressed through us. So she lives now in quiet radiance, not grasping, not retreating, not chasing, not controlling. Her love has no agenda, no fear of loss. She loves because she is love. When a woman stops chasing love, she becomes unstoppable. Not because she's hardened, but because she's softened into truth. She moves through the world with the kind of grace that only comes from someone who has known both longing and liberation. Her presence itself becomes healing. Her peace becomes power. And this is the awakening of the soul. To no longer run from yourself, to no longer search for what's already within you, to finally remember that love was never something to find. It was something to remember. She isn't waiting anymore. She isn't chasing anymore. She has arrived. Thank you for sharing this time. Your journey gives life to this space. Stay with us as we keep exploring, growing, and uncovering the truths that help us become more ourselves. Until next time, take care and keep becoming who you truly are.